What if I told you that one of the most powerful business books ever written was written by a circus showman in the 1880s? A man who sold a fake mermaid, made millions from lies wrapped in laughter, went completely bankrupt, and then climbed back to the top, not with luck, but with principles. Before Elon Musk, before Steve Jobs, there was a man named P.T. Barnum, and what he understood about money, attention, and human nature wasn't just ahead of its time. It created the blueprint for modern business. This is not just a summary. This is a journey through the timeless rules of wealth, as told by a man who lived every single one of them. Barnum didn't just tell you to work hard, he told you what to work on. He didn't just warn against debt. He explained how it buries the ambitious. And when most people chase opportunity after opportunity, he taught the discipline of staying focused, because scattered energy is wasted energy. The principles in the art of money getting have been used by legends like Walt Disney, Sam Walton, Colonel Sanders. And whether you're just starting your first side hustle or scaling your 10th startup, what you're about to hear could permanently change the way you think about wealth. So, forget what you've been told about passive income or overnight success. This isn't a fantasy. This is the truth. From the trenches of failure, success, reinvention, and the biggest show on earth. Let's begin. Before he became a household name, before the parades, the posters, and the lights, Phineas Taylor Barnum was a broke 20-something with nothing but curiosity and an obsession with what made people pay attention. Born in 1810 in Connecticut, Barnum didn't inherit wealth. He didn't have powerful friends. What he had was nerve. At just 25, he bought his first attraction, an enslaved woman named Joyce Heth, whom he claimed was 161 years old, and the former nurse of George Washington. It was a lie. She was barely 80, blind, frail, and exploited. And yet, the crowds came. Newspapers wrote about her. He made thousands. Barnum had discovered something powerful. People don't buy the product. They buy the story. He took that idea and ran with it. He filled his museums with oddities. Mermaids that were really monkeys sewn to fish tails, giants, dwarfs, illusions, animals, and light shows. And every time interest dropped, he changed the story. He painted the building. He sparked rumors. He marketed before anyone called it marketing. By the 1850s, he was a millionaire. In today's terms, a multimillionaire. But then, he got greedy. He invested in a failed clock company, took on risky debts, made outside bets, and lost everything. Bankrupt, broke, publicly humiliated. He had no assets. His mansion, gone. His museum, burned to the ground, twice. But here's what made Barnum different. He didn't complain. He didn't hide. He started over. He began giving public lectures on the art of money getting. Imagine that. A man who had just lost it all, teaching people how to get rich. And yet, people listened. Why? Because Barnum didn't preach theory, he preached scars. His rules were forged in risk, failure, and hard-won triumph. And within a few years, he rebuilt his empire, not by chasing new tricks, but by returning to the fundamentals. He stayed focused, he stayed visible, and he gave people value, wrapped in entertainment. Decades before the internet, TikTok, or brand marketing ever existed. When he launched his traveling circus, the greatest show on earth, he wasn't just entertaining people, he was selling attention and turning it into income. Barnum died rich, respected, and remembered. But not because he never failed. He succeeded because he understood this. Wealth isn't about luck, it's about rules. Learn the rules and you can rise again, even from ashes. So, what were those rules? Let's break down the 7 timeless principles Barnum used to build and rebuild his fortune. Unless a man enters upon the vocation intended for him by nature, he cannot succeed. That was Barnum's first golden rule, and it's one that destroys more dreams than failure ever could. Because here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they're in the wrong game. Think about it. How many people do you know who are grinding every day? But deep down, they're miserable? They hate the work. They force motivation. And no matter how hard they push, they never really break through. Barnum saw it over and over. Men working jobs they weren't built for. Chasing careers that made their fathers proud, but left them empty. And then, wondering why success never came. He believed that natural talent plus aligned vocation equals inevitable advantage. If you're meant to create and you're stuck managing, you'll always feel caged. If you're built to lead but stuck following, you'll feel suffocated. And he wasn't the only one who figured that out. Take Charles Darwin. His father pushed him toward medicine, a stable, noble path. But Darwin hated it. He was bored, unmotivated, failing. So he pivoted. He leaned into what actually lit him up: natural science, biology, discovery. And that decision didn't just change his life, it changed the entire world. Why? Because once you're in the right vocation, momentum finds you. Opportunities stick. Your talent compounds. You stop forcing progress and start attracting it. So ask yourself, are you playing your game or someone else's? Are you pursuing the path that feels safe or the one that feels right? Barnum's life proves it. Your fortune doesn't come from grinding harder in the wrong direction. It comes from aligning your nature with your work and then going all in. Your time, energy, and focus are limited. Don't waste them proving you can succeed at something that isn't yours to master.
عليك أن تدرك أن ردة فعلك لن تغير شيئا. لن يجعلهم يحترمونك فجأة، ولن يجبرهم على تفهمك، ولن يحول أعداءك إلى أصدقاء. يمكنك أن تشرح نفسك حتى تستنفذ طاقتك، وسيظلون يصدقون ما يريدون عنك. هذا حقهم. توقف عن القتال من أجل الإقناع. توقف عن المطالبة بتفسيرات. توقف عن مطاردة الإجابات من أشخاص غير مهتمين بإعطائها. تنتهي بعض الفصول دون حل. هذه هي الحياة. يحدث التحول الحقيقي عندما تتوقف عن إعطاء القوة لما يحدث حولك وتستعيدها بالتركيز على ما ينمو بداخلك. سلامك أهم من تصوراتهم. نموك أكثر أهمية من موافقتهم. حقيقتك أهم من فهمهم. اعمل على نفسك. ابن ثباتك الداخلي. كلما قل احتياجك للآخرين للتحقق من حقيقتك، كلما أصبحت أكثر حرية. وفي النهاية، اسأل نفسك دائما: هل ما يشغلك الآن يستحق أن يأخذ من سلامك؟
Principle 2. Avoid debt. Barnum didn't sugarcoat it. Money is like fire, an excellent servant, but a terrible master. He learned that the hard way. At the height of his fame, Barnum was rich: museums, mansions, press coverage. But success made him greedy. He borrowed money, took risks. He invested in a clock company he didn't fully understand, hoping for fast returns. And then it all collapsed. The debts piled up. Investors pulled out. He was forced to sell everything, even his home. The man who built a fortune from showmanship was suddenly penniless. Debt didn't just slow him down, it enslaved him. And Barnum never forgot that lesson. He warned others like a prophet with scars. Don't confuse wealth with credit. Don't mistake momentum for mastery. Debt can make you look successful, right before it eats you alive. And history repeated itself, even with visionaries like Walt Disney. Before Mickey Mouse, before Disneyland, Walt launched his first studio, Laugh-O-Gram Films. He had talent, drive, and no money. He borrowed to grow faster, but one shady distributor ran off with Walt's earnings, leaving him deep in debt, unable to pay his team or himself. Broke and starving, he declared bankruptcy. The only thing that kept him going was a borrowed train ticket to Hollywood and a decision to never again let debt decide his future. Debt feels like acceleration, but what it actually does is steal your control. When you owe, you're not free. Your creativity is muted. Your time belongs to someone else. Barnum put it bluntly: let money work for you, and it becomes the best servant in the world. Let it pile up against you, and it becomes a ruthless master. If you're building something, build it clean. Grow slower if you must, but never give away your peace, your power, or your principles just to look rich faster. Real wealth is quiet, and it's debt-free. Principle 3. Persevere. Perseverance is sometimes just another word for self-reliance. That's how Barnum put it. And in those 11 words, he explained why most people never make it. Because when things go wrong, and they will go wrong, most people fold. They look for someone to blame. They ask for advice from everyone but themselves. And they drift, pushed by every opinion, pulled by every fear. But the ones who win, they do something different. They stay. Take Benjamin Franklin. Long before he became a founding father, he was just a teenage shop clerk. He got sick. His boss died. The shop closed. Just like that, his job was gone, and his future was uncertain. But Franklin didn't complain. He didn't wait for the right moment. He scraped together what he had, partnered with a friend, and started a printing business from scratch. It was hard. They had no money, no support, no backup plan, but they showed up every day. They delivered, they adapted, they got better. And Franklin's name eventually became synonymous with hustle, wisdom, and American independence, all because he refused to quit. Barnum knew the pattern. He'd seen it in business, in performers, in himself. The moment most people feel resistance, they start looking for the exit. But success doesn't come after the first try. It comes after the 10th, after the 100th, after the days when your stomach is empty and your bank account is laughing at you. Perseverance isn't just patience. It's belief in yourself when there's no applause. It's trusting your process even when the results haven't shown up yet. You want freedom? You want impact. Then you have to build a spine strong enough to carry both. There will be days when no one believes in you. There will be moments when quitting makes perfect sense. But if you can learn to rely on yourself, to find your own wind when the world goes still, then you become unstoppable. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, brick by brick, setback by setback. And the moment you stop waiting for things to get easier is the moment you get stronger. Principle 4. Whatever you do, do it with all your might. Barnum didn't believe in balance. He believed in full force. He said, "Work at it if necessary, early and late, in season and out of season, never deferring for a single hour that which can be done just as well now." In other words, if you want extraordinary results, you have to show up with extraordinary intensity. And that's where most people fail, because they think effort means trying. But Barnum knew the truth. Trying gets you noticed. All in gets you paid. Years later, entrepreneur Derek Sivers would prove it with numbers. He said, "A brilliant idea with no execution, maybe it's worth $20, but that same idea with relentless execution, it could be worth 20 million. Execution multiplies everything, your ideas, your influence, your income. And execution only happens when you're all in, when you treat your work like it matters more than anything else in the room." Barnum lived this. He didn't dabble in entertainment, he dominated it. When others put on shows, he built experiences. When others posted flyers, he launched citywide parades. Everything he did loud, bold, and completely. Because he understood a simple rule: half effort is invisible, full effort is unforgettable. So ask yourself, when was the last time you gave something everything? Not "I showed up," not "I did enough," but "I went so deep they couldn't ignore me." Barnum believed that success doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most committed, the ones who burn the bridge behind them, who say, "If this fails, I fail, so I'm not letting it fail." The market doesn't reward effort. It rewards total immersion. So stop dipping your toes in. Pick something and pour yourself into it until your name is the first one people think of. Not because you showed up, but because you never stopped. Principle 5. Depend upon your own personal exertions. The eye of the employer is often worth more than the hands of a dozen employees. Barnum wasn't being poetic. He was being brutally honest. You can hire people. You can outsource tasks. But you can't delegate ownership. Because the truth is this: if you don't care more about your business than anyone else, it will die. No one's going to build your vision for you. Not your assistant, not your freelancer, not your manager. You are the engine. And if you shut off, everything stops. Look at Colonel Sanders. Before the white suit and chicken empire, he was just a gas station manager. But he wasn't content just pumping gas. He cleaned windshields, he checked oil, he fixed tires for free. He knew every customer by name. Why? Because he understood that no one else was going to care like he would. That exertion, that hands-on ownership, is what tripled sales in just 1 month. It's also what sparked the first steps toward Kentucky Fried Chicken. Barnum had employees, performers, promoters, but he never disappeared. He was in the crowds. He was inspecting the tents. He was tweaking headlines, personally replying to press. Because he knew, when the owner shows up, standards rise. When the owner cares, the team does too. Success isn't built in the background. It's built on the front lines. This is where most new entrepreneurs get it wrong. They think they can automate the hard parts. They want passive income without active obsession. They want freedom before they've earned the right to step back. But Barnum made it clear. Until you've mastered the game yourself, don't expect others to win it for you. If you don't know your own numbers, you'll get robbed. If you don't know your customer, they'll leave. If you don't touch your product, it will rot. Your business won't grow past your personal involvement until your leadership has earned that privilege. So show up. Don't just check in. Get in the dirt. Refine, improve, watch, push. Because nobody will ever care like the person who signs the front of the check. Principle 6. Use the best tools. Barnum had no time for mediocrity. He said, "There is no tool you should be so particular about as living tools. In other words, your people are your tools. Sharpen them or lose everything." He didn't just mean talent. He meant quality across the board. Your team, your systems, your decisions. The best tools make your work faster, cleaner, more powerful. The worst? They multiply problems, burn time, and stall momentum. And Barnum wasn't exaggerating. He lived it. When one of his performers failed to show up in costume, he didn't blame them, he fired them. Because in a business based on spectacle, excellence was not optional. Fast forward 150 years, and Google builds on the same principle. When Eric Schmidt was CEO, he said, "No strategy can out-execute a mediocre team." Google's hiring process, brutal. Every candidate is vetted by a committee of peers, not just managers. Why? Because they know. The people you hire are either weapons or liabilities. They don't settle. Sometimes they hire great people without even having a job ready, just to get quality in the door. That's not luck, that's discipline. And this isn't just about staff. Your systems are tools. Your habits are tools. Your mentors, your software, your daily routines, all tools. If you build with garbage, don't be surprised when the structure collapses. If you surround yourself with amateurs, don't expect professional results. Barnum's rule was simple. Invest in the best and protect them. Whether it's a top performer or a high-efficiency system, quality pays for itself every day. So, stop being cheap with your future. The fastest way to accelerate growth is to raise the floor of your tools. Upgrade your inputs, and your outputs will follow. Cut what's weak, strengthen what's strong. Don't ask if something works. Ask if it works best. Because in business, precision isn't a luxury. It's a weapon. Principle 7. Don't scatter your powers. Engage in one kind of business only, and stick to it faithfully until you succeed. That line, right there, is where most people lose. Barnum saw it constantly. Talented people jumping from project to project, idea to idea, spreading themselves so thin that nothing ever hits. He called it scattering your powers. And it's not just a mistake, it's a trap. Because when you divide your attention, you destroy your momentum. You get movement, but no impact. Progress, but no results. Warren Buffett, one of the most focused billionaires alive, said it best. He once gave his pilot an exercise. Write down your top 25 career goals. Then Buffett said, circle your top 5. Now, here's the catch. Avoid the other 20 at all costs. Why? Because those 20 are your biggest threat. They seem valuable, but they pull energy from your top 5. Scattered ambition is disguised sabotage. Barnum made money in entertainment, real estate, books, but never all at once. He focused like a sniper. When he built his American Museum, he stayed on it. When he launched his circus, he lived inside it. He didn't just do a bunch of things. He dominated one until it built empires. And every time he strayed from that, like with his failed clock company, he lost. He learned, and he came back sharper. So ask yourself, what are you really working on? Not how many things, but which one? And is that one thing getting everything you've got? Barnum wasn't anti-creativity. He was anti-dilution, because he knew depth wins, not variety. Cut the noise. Pick your target. Hit it again and again until it breaks. Only then should you aim somewhere else. Don't scatter your power. Concentrate it. That's how fortunes are built. Legacy and final reflections. P.T. Barnum wasn't just a showman. He was a builder, a strategist, a man who lost everything and earned it all back. But more importantly, he left behind a blueprint, a timeless playbook on how wealth is built, not just with money, but with mindset. He didn't preach get rich quick. He preached get sharp, get focused, get disciplined. Because what made Barnum rich wasn't luck. It was that he understood people, he understood attention, and he understood himself. He knew that to win, you must find the work that fits your nature. You must avoid the trap of debt. You must keep going when others give up. You must give everything, or don't bother starting. You must take ownership, not outsource your soul. You must only build with the best tools, and guard them like gold. And above all, you must stay laser-focused. One shot, one mission, one path, until it breaks open. You're not too late. The game hasn't passed you. You don't need permission. You need principles. You need clarity in a world obsessed with chaos. You need structure in a world that worships hustle. And you need to stop chasing distractions and start building your legacy, just like Barnum did. This isn't just a summary of a forgotten book from the 1880s. This is a mirror, a challenge, a call to tighten your circle, sharpen your focus, and move with intention. Because money doesn't come to the smartest. It comes to the most aligned, the most committed, the ones who play the long game, by their own rules. So don't ask, what would Barnum do? Ask, what will I do, starting now?